We now have a timeline of when we can expect Matthew Tkachuk to be back, and is the pre-Thanksgiving portion of the Panthers schedule actually advantageous? We'll discuss that more on today's Locked On Florida Panthers podcast.
Your Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Friday, July 18th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News. You can follow me on X at Monoman12. That is Nich Fairbanks. You can follow him on X at Prudentia0, here for another edition of Fairbanks Friday. Shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. You can do that all on Game Time. So today on the show, we are going to discuss the report of how long Matthew Tkachuk is expected to be out of the lineup to start the season. We're also going to discuss how advantageous the first 20 some odd games pre-Thanksgiving portion of the schedule actually could be for the Florida Panthers. And the Stanley Cup on Thursday made a visit to a South Florida-based restaurant, and we're going to have a little bit of fun in segment number 3 based on that and which food items we like out of said restaurant today. But Nick, welcome back to the show, and the new report on what is going on with Matthew Tkachuk and his injury. We knew that he was expected to miss some time, but now Nick Kyreo of Real Kipper and Born has reported that Matthew Tkachuk is going to be out past the Christmas break. So that is at least the first 30 some odd games of the season. It's going to be past the Winter Classic for the Panthers when they host the New York Rangers. So just your overall thoughts based on now hearing an actual timeline as one Nick Kyreo is one of the national reporters really deep into the weeds of the league. So for me, this is kind of what my expectation was.
Yeah, definitely. I think the big expectation is that he was going to be ready to go for the Olympics. I mean, he was one of the first to be named to the team, and he wasn't going to miss out. So this basically is in line with what we were thinking all along. Now, to miss the Winter Classic and everything sucks, to be honest. I mean,
Yeah.
This might be a once in a lifetime thing down here, and unfortunately, he's a big reason why it's even here. So to say that he's not going to be able to participate, it sucks. But I think Florida has other things on their mind that they want to accomplish, and as long as they get a healthy Matthew Tkachuk after the Olympics, they'll be very happy to have him.
Yeah, and not easy when you're going to have corrective surgery for a adductor injury and a hernia, and also for, like you mentioned it best, he is the reason why the Panthers have a Winter Classic game in South Florida, and the fact that there's a chance, it's not 100% that he'll miss it, but it says past the Christmas break. So I think that the Panthers would probably, as of July 17th at 9:27 p.m., I would say that the Panthers are going to choose to play it safe as of right now, but you never know how they progress through their recovery, and you never know how badly Matthew Tkachuk will be going into Bill Zito and Paul Maurice's office saying, "Hey, this for the Florida Panthers." They are only, and you think about it, for the Winter Classic, they're giving the Panthers their outdoor game because of the fact that they finally had success. Even if the Panthers win like 2 or 3 more Stanley Cups in a row, the fact of the Winter Classic coming to South Florida, it's because it's new for the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to keep coming back every single year as the newness would be rubbing off for for what the NHL is experimenting this and the Stadium Series. So I don't want to put when it comes to Matthew Tkachuk missing this, it's the ultimate bummer for him. But I can only imagine a scenario where, hey, they maybe revisit it, but then right now the timeline is around that area. It's also very interesting.
So that means that they're not exactly ruling it out. It's just more or less you and I are speculating, like, hey, after Christmas, just let them take off to the Olympics and let them get healthy. But kind of want to relate this to the guy he was traded for,
Yeah.
and Jonathan Huberdeau, and how he had the Achilles tear and came back really early. Hats off to him for doing that, especially with an injury like that and trying to help push the Panthers into the playoffs. But who knows? Maybe it will be just after Christmas and he'll get a game or two in and then go into the Winter Classic. But hey, he was off for the last month or two of the season, and he came back and played in the playoffs and looked injured still, but he still provided what the Panthers needed to win another cup. So I guess anything can happen.
Yeah,
which is great.
By the way, Jonathan Huberdeau returned in February that year. His first game that year was February 3rd against the Anaheim Ducks, and he scored a goal for what it's worth.
Oh, man, that's nuts.
First game back. But also when I think of what the Panthers here, when it comes to, we don't know whether he's gotten the surgery to begin with. He just was recently seen at the American Century Championship.
Mm-hmm.
But my opinion still stands. Even before he played that second game against Canada, the Panthers owe him so much. You take your time based on the surgery, and because you have brought our franchise so much success and you brought put us on the map, we are going to respect your timeline in looking for opinions on doctors. And I guess because of the fact that he's at this was recently at this golf tournament, says that he hasn't gotten it yet. Based on because I would feel that he would be less mobile and not even be able to go out, at least for a little bit in the beginning. But again, I'm under the opinion that I do believe that the Panthers do owe him based on when he takes it. So obviously the Panthers are not cap compliant if the roster that they have and there's no one going on LTIR, but with Matthew Tkachuk going on LTIR to start the season, now the Panthers could have Evan Rodriguez and Jesper Boquist to start the season. But you know what's the great thing about this, Nick? Is that we can now start to understand why they don't make moves this early into the season, that they could take their time now that they have like a little bit of a note of like why and how long it's going to take for Tkachuk. But the fact that the Panthers are coming off 2 straight Stanley Cup champions for them, and this is one of the rare times where Zito doesn't have leverage. But the fact is that whenever you're coming off of 2 straight championships, you don't care about what you might have to trade in order for someone to take off your off the cap hit, which you're looking at this. It's a numbers game for putting these things together. And yeah, you're gonna extend them more, but the writing is on the wall. But the fact that the Panthers are not caring about not getting as much value back, man, is this a great thing?
You just think about how Tampa Bay, Chicago Blackhawks, those teams, and how they had to operate earlier, with the salary cap, how they had to shed salary. They couldn't pay players. They had to trade integral parts of their team. Florida doesn't have to do that, which is in of itself masterclass by Bill Zito.
Insane.
I cannot think of another franchise that has been able to keep it together like this since probably the Chicago Bulls domination in the 90s. Like, they were able to bring in whomever they wanted to keep whomever. Unfortunately, it just came down to egos and, money. But I think this team is so down to earth and they love playing with each other that there is going to be a difference. And Zito knows that. Zito knows that there's going to have to be sacrifices, but you're not going to have to get rid of your number one defenseman. You're not going to have to get rid of, your elite centermen like in Lundell and Barkov and now Bennett, you have everything. The only thing that could possibly even go wrong, I'm not even going to say because I don't want it to happen. So I just we have to revel in the fact that they are still in the best position possible, even after the free agency going into the season. Like, what's going to stop them? Obviously,
and even after cap clearing trades, for to be cap compliant. It's funny because you mentioned Chicago Bulls. It took me back to the Last Dance documentary when it was such a cultural phenomenon in summer of 2020, and I think of Scottie Pippen not getting paid as much. I think of all the players in the Panthers who took a lot less, and even before 1998, it was a whole bunch of one-year deals in order to run it back. Yeah, not the same exact case, but you can kind of relate the two on why you want to uh, pay the personal sacrifice in order to do it again. And then you see the second three-peat for the Bulls. Oh, so worth it, even though the team got blown up very shortly after. And thankfully, the Panthers won't have to worry about that situation, even
for
if
a
they do win
while.
it again, about the blow it up part of things for them. But we're going to transition over to segment number 2, where we are going to discuss the pre-Thanksgiving schedule for the Panthers on how it could actually be very advantageous for the Panthers. We'll discuss that more next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. And we've all been there. Logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with stress of ticket shopping. That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time makes getting concert tickets easier and faster than ever. Prices actually drop the sooner it gets to showtime. You can save up to 60% off with killer last minute deals. And with the seat views also on the Game Time app, it helps me see where I'm going to be seated, whether it's the standing room only portion or an actual seat and to closer to the venue and the stage for where the band is going to be performing. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets and show tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Segment 2 here on this Friday, July 18th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. Armando Velez here with Nich Fairbanks on another edition of Fairbanks Friday. So, a few housekeeping things for the Panthers here is that forward Wilmer Skoog and defenseman Tobias Bjornfoot have each signed 1 year, 2-way deals with the Florida Panthers. Were a big part of the Charlotte Checkers' success on getting them to the Calder Cup final before losing in 6 games to the Abbotsford Canucks. So, Nick, a few things in relation to the Panthers and their management. Where have they been? Where the Stanley Cup has been? So, there was a viral photo, and there's the thing about Roberto Luongo having viral tweets or moments. He's at Taylor Swift concerts. He's on social media. He's hip. He has that mysterious nature to him. But then he goes into the pop culture part of things and has the picture with the Labubu dolls. And are Labubus a little bit of a fad? Yeah, sure. But I learned something a little bit about Labubu is that the box that they come in is discreet. You don't know which theme you are going to get, and then when you open it, that's when you know. So that is a little mystery when it comes to that. So Lou being mysterious and the whole Lububu doll. It's funny because there's so many L's. It's a tongue twister here, but it's so funny how he was able to mix the two. And also, Bill Zito was also spotted at a fishing convention in Orlando called ICAST. A fan recently posted a photo of it on the Florida Panthers fan page. So Bill Zito having a little bit of fun with that. So any thoughts on those, Nick?
I'll be honest, I don't know what a Labubu is. I'm just still caught up on Wilmer Skoog and where they came up with that name and why is it a perfect hockey player name, in my opinion. But to get back to the Labubus, it would be Lou to do
Yes.
something like that and just be like, hey guys, guess what? Yeah, I'm on the cup again. But I guess I equate this to the Beanie Baby craze
Yes.
with McDonald's, like, because you never knew which one you were getting, and people would flock to different restaurants to see if they can get get them all, or at least get one that they don't have. Um, I think it's a great marketing tactic, and people are going
Yeah.
crazy for it. Just, I probably will not be investing in it. Just me personally, I rather get 10 Bobrovsky bobbleheads than a Labubu right now. I guess that's just me, but yeah, I guess that's all I have on the subject. I'm totally out to lunch on them.
Did the 2007 Anaheim Ducks or the 2008 Detroit Red Wings, did they celebrate with silly bands by any chance? Maybe. Who knows? So
No idea.
no idea. But let's get back to our regularly scheduled programming, where the it's funny because, as I mentioned on yesterday's show, I'm going to keep scanning the schedule up and down to see which kind of different talking points I could come up with all throughout the summer. And just obviously when the Panthers run it back and every unit's almost the same, you got to come up with a few things here and there. But I'm just looking at this schedule and I'm just thinking of the advantageous position that the Florida Panthers will find, that I believe that they find themselves in this first 23 games of the season. I did look up the record on where the wild card teams were pre-Thanksgiving. Both teams were at least 4 games over hockey 500. So 4 points over.
Yep.
So that's around the ballpark that I would like to see the Panthers, maybe around like 26, 27 points to start. Yeah, a majority of the guys are coming back with the exception of Tkachuk starting the year on LTIR. But 10 of the first 23 games are against playoff teams. So less than half of the schedule for the Panthers. And also, they are facing a few teams twice with having a few changes on their roster, whether it's coaches, whether it's personnel. The Philadelphia Flyers, they play them 3 times before Thanksgiving, and that's it throughout the season. The Ducks have a lot of changes this year, and they're playing them twice. Vegas Golden Knights are, yes, they're the Western Conference favorites. They should be, even though their defense is a little suspect right now with losing Pietrangelo. But that's a little bit of a trial period for Mitch Marner and Jack Eichel together. So that's another thing I'm looking at this. I'm like, why can't the Panthers be successful in this first 23 games of the season?
Well, yeah. I mean, how long did it take for them 2-3 years ago to get things going or to finally figure things out? You have these teams that are coming in like the Ducks, with Coach Q, coming back after a couple of years. How is he gonna change how he coaches? How's that team gonna respond to him? I mean, they just signed Dostal to a really big contract extension today, so he's the number one guy. And then you have the Philadelphia Flyers, who for the last season or two, ever since they got Owen Tippett, have had the Panthers number. Panthers would be up 3-0, and then they would just give it up for whatever reason. So you have to expect that there will be yeah. I'm trying not to talk about that one. That one was just depressing. But you have to expect that Florida's going to continue to play their game. I think they're probably going to still want to put their name out there saying, hey, we are still the reigning champs. We're not going anywhere. And by Thanksgiving, hopefully they're 5, 6, 7, 8 points above, where they need to be. And they're not really trying to chase it because of how many years was this franchise chasing after that fact just to try to get into a playoff position or even fight for a wild card. And it's almost impossible unless, you're the St. Louis Blues of like 2019. And even the Oilers from the previous season, they had a horrible start and then they end up going to the Stanley Cup final. So advantageous for the Panthers? I think so, but I also think that they'll get some good tests out of the way to really
Yeah.
measure where they're at.
And you're also gonna have teams who underachieved the season before. Nashville, they'll get them at home. New Jersey, who dealt with a lot of injuries towards the end of the year. Jack Hughes missed the entire playoffs for them. Washington's a little bit hard to predict because did they overachieve a lot in last year? Although they have a lot of young pieces, Alexander Ovechkin is likely his last season. What do they do with the transition after him and John Carlson in the lineup? So, do the young guys of Washington, do they continue that success and to carry them in the top three in the Metro again? And also, thankfully, the Panthers will have rebuilding teams on the schedule as well in Pittsburgh and Boston to start, including Brad Marchand's return. And also, for the Stanley Cup final rematch against the Edmonton Oilers, the Oilers will be coming on. That'll be the end of a 6-game road trip, starting in Columbus, ending in Florida. So that's another advantageous position.
It is, but between you and me, which game on the schedule do you think they're going to be more amped to play?
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
So at the end of the 6 games, yeah, you probably just want to go home. But considering that you're playing the team that just beat your, in the Stanley Cup final, yeah, you're gonna be geared up for that one. So why not just lay it all out there and then maybe go into the break with a few bumps and bruises? But no, I'm glad that they're getting some tests, up front. And who knows, maybe some of these teams might surprise. I mean, Nashville was, like you were saying, they were horrible last season. They just did not gel at all. I don't think Andrew Brunette knew what to do with himself, unfortunately.
His seat is hot this year.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens with them. They might figure it out. I don't know, but as you said, advantageous. We'll know what what they look like against these teams, and then after Thanksgiving, it's just, to me, go to the Christmas break, get healthy. Maybe you have a Matthew Tkachuk like we were talking about.
Yep, and that's why that first benchmark and where the Panthers are in the schedule. Maybe there's some holes in the other teams that they could definitely take advantage of for sure. But we're going to transition over to segment number 3, where the Stanley Cup paid a visit to an iconic South Florida restaurant on Thursday. We're going to discuss that and what food items will we like to eat out of the Stanley Cup from said restaurant. We'll discuss that more next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Segment 3 here on this Friday, July 18th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Friday. Armando Velez here with Nich Fairbanks here. And if you're watching on the YouTube, you were spoiled from the very beginning based on the bullet points to our right. And the shirt that I'm wearing based on the exact restaurant that the Stanley Cup paid a visit to today. So the Stanley Cup was spotted at the Flanigan's in Hallandale Beach, and it was because of one of the days with the cup for the Florida Panthers. One of the equipment managers, Scott Tinkler, decided to bring the cup to Flanigan's in Hallandale Beach. But Nick, as a South Florida native, and seeing that the Panthers winning the Stanley Cup the second time, I will say I'm a little disappointed that it took the second time winning the Stanley Cup for the cup to visit Flanigan's. We didn't cover this at all last year. I tweeted it a few times, said it maybe once on the podcast, but finally, and yeah, that doesn't come every year. So I'm surprised they didn't do it the first time.
You would think they would go there. That'd be like one of the first, I guess, dining establishments they would go to. But here we are in 2025, and the Elbow Room has more namesake right now than Flanigan's, unfortunately. So,
yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. But the Panthers and what Tinkler did, they did it right. They incorporated a South Florida staple, and it. I wonder where else they could go with it. I mean, I think the possibilities are endless. So I mean, we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, and I kind of get it in a way, because we doing this podcast are and also most of the ones listening to the show are more care about the region more than the actual players and the coaches. A lot of them aren't from South Florida. Yeah, they live there, so they don't care about the local establishments maybe as much as we do talking about it. So maybe I can understand why it took them so long to take it to Flanigan's. But hey, maybe the quarter deck is next. Maybe La Carreta. Maybe Cafe Versailles in Dade County. Who knows? But let's have a little bit of fun here on the show, based on the things we would eat from Flanigan's out. And yeah, I'm wearing the t-shirt. I even have my Flanigan's Fest jersey somewhere over here from when I went to the Marlins game just last month. But so many options as far as even the starters. There's rib rolls, there's garlic rolls, tumbleweed onions, potato skins, mozzarella sticks, loaded nachos. Of those items, Nick, of the appetizers, because we're gonna go 3-course style here.
Oh,
What would be of your choosing if you had to pick one?
oh, rib rolls. Come on, all day, all day. Give me the barbecue sauce. Give me the pulled pork. Give me all of it, man. It's delicious.
Yeah, and the rib rolls would look right inside the cup, even though in the videos they all showed on a plate above the cup instead of actually like in it. I get there's more maintenance to be done if you were to put the actual food in there, but rib rolls would look right in the cup. Also, the loaded nachos would look great in the Stanley Cup, just stacked from bottom all the way to top. The tumbleweed onions would look great as well. So a lot of appetizers would look good inside of the Stanley Cup. But my number one would be the loaded nachos. I feel like just it's something that you would want to take out your phone and just post a picture of. And even though I don't have a food vlog page, that is one thing that, hey, looking at this perfection is like I can see somebody wanting to put items there. Also, yeah, there's also other apps as far as like salads and everything as well. Those are acceptable items. But entrees, starters. So there's also the options of baby back ribs, wings. But here's the thing, Nick. Tell me if you have the same opinion. A Philly cheesesteak, or any of the signature sandwiches or the burgers, I don't think it would look right inside of the Stanley Cup. Just picturing it, even if there's fries in it, I feel like you have to get more of like single hand finger foods versus an actual burger. I feel like it wouldn't look right.
No, you're exactly right. I mean, if it was presented in such a way, like maybe sliders or something just smaller that you can pack in and everybody can take one, or take a small part of it, I think it would work. But having like an entire, let's look at this here, because you and I both have it up right now, but having an entire Texas burger or a Flanigan burger, like, could you just imagine? I'm not a mushroom guy, but could you imagine me picking up a burger and it having mushroom on it? No, I can't do that, man. Like, let's just keep it simple. As you said, finger foods.
Finger foods, yes, and the ribs would be great. The wings. Also, I'm scrolling down other getting a fork and also eating up some grilled salmon in there as well. Sounds pretty great. Some tilapia, some pasta. Yeah, we mentioned Roberto
Oh,
Longo in the previous segment. He ate pasta from his family's restaurant. Flanagan's has a variety of other pasta options as well, and also some of the chicken options that I believe would be great. But uh, let now that the courses are over, I prefer the baby back ribs of all things to eat from there. But dessert, they showed this in the video at Flanagan's, but I can't imagine another item to eat out of there from the Stanley Cup than a bonsai brownie. I know there's other menu items there, but looking at that one, I got to go with the bonsai brownie, which has Edie's vanilla ice cream, Oreo cookie chunks, Kit Kats, Hershey chocolate syrup, and whipped cream. How about you?
I don't know. Everything you just mentioned just put me into a coma right now. Like, that sounds amazing. No, I can't disagree with you there. I mean, again, it's like, it's something simple. It's a Sunday type thing. You can just put it on top of the cup and just scoop it out. Everybody can enjoy it and everything. And oh man, all the chocolate. Oh, perfect.
Oh, no doubt. But there's also the other options like key lime pie, dulce de leche, chocolate ecstasy, all that. So we did ask our listeners out there here on the Instagram and Twitter of just what they would like out of the Stanley Cup. Air.Jordan _ says half rack of ribs, arroz con frijoles negros, mini corn dogs. Alec _ M_G says 10 wings, Texas burgers, no bacon, and a Chipotle chicken sandwich. Like I said, burgers and sandwiches inside of the Stanley Cup doesn't look right for me. He also says sauces and wings would be classic sauce, add a baked potato and a drink. Yeah. How about we all also take a little bit of sip of the pale ale as well if you're of drinking age. That would be another great thing to have from there. Also, Alec did recommend Miller Lite or Blue Moon, two very smooth beers that if you're at an angle from the Stanley Cup, it doesn't hit you like the wind. And also, Ethan Rivero says, "Go ahead."
I was gonna ask, would you put orange slices if you got Blue Moon? Would you like dip them on the side? Like,
yes, let's do it. Yes, you go big or go home on that one. So just even if it hits your face, or hits your eye, while if you put the orange wedges in the actual cup before you take a sip, and if someone were to serve it for you, it's a chance to drink out of the cup, so you don't say no to those type of things. So yeah, those are our responses and are also the opinions from Nick and I based on what we would eat, what Flanigan's items we would eat out of the cup if we had the chance to, based on the Stanley Cup paying a visit to Flanigan's on Thursday. But Nick, I want to thank you so much for joining me on today's edition of the show. Tell everybody where they can follow you online, my friend.
Armando, thank you again. I'm gonna go get a sundae after this. That is a ridiculous sounding brownie. You guys can follow me on Prudential Zero. Great to be on this show this week. Just with the different things that you're able to come up with and plan and everything. I really appreciate it, man. You're doing a great job. So I will be here next week with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, and see you very soon. And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows in the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone and Steel Rodent, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez with Nich Fairbanks, and you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.